So I try to talk a lot about game improvements, little details here and there that make a game better. But it's important to remember that these details are not what makes the game. These details are what gives a player a slightly better experience so that the game is a little more attractive to a player, so that the player enjoys the game a little bit more. But all of these sort of minor improvements are meaningless if the core mechanics of the game, if the core concept of the game is not good. So what I actually look for when I'm looking for a game is a sort of a core. The core gameplay needs to be something that makes me want to play it, and then I do play it, and then I look for the details here and there that I think could make me want to play it a bit more, would make me have a better time. And this game has a lot of sort of fine details that need to be improved, a lot of polish, as popular to call it, that needs to be applied. But I think the core idea here, the core concept, has a huge amount of potential. It made me want to play it. I don't think it's a unique concept necessarily, although I can't think of another game that is quite the same as this. I mean, certainly in sort of gameplay mechanics, this is far from new. But just the core idea here is something that I find really interesting. Something that I would like to see explored more in more games. The game is made for a game jam called Game Off E25. The page is in French, so I'm not quite sure what it was all about, but the theme was solar punk, so you need solar power included in the game at some point, I think, as I understand it. Let me jump in and show some gameplay, and then we can talk about all the critiques that I have and the things that need to be focused on, which I'm sure the developers are aware of many of them, but I would like to talk about them more. So, the idea is, before we jump in, that we are living in this world where at night time these sort of creatures attack. Dark figures sort of arrive. They seem to be allergic to light and also bullets. And your sort of goal, your objective, is to protect the people of the village and to grow the village into sort of a more functional city, so that you can then repair these four obelisks around the map, which will help stop the main boss. I guess I'm not sure if there is a main boss or just these creatures. But let's hop in and have a look. So run the game. Now I learnt basically when I press start, it'll start a sort of a somewhat randomized map with some basic sort of village setup, and I need to move quite quickly. That's why I'm talking about it before I jump in. After some testing, I discovered there's a very specific initial build pattern that you need to do before you. Otherwise you just sort of fall behind the curve and you can't get any further. But once you have that pattern, you can stabilize things fairly quickly. So I hit space. Here is my map. Here are the things I can build. I figured out that what I need to build is a wind turbine quite quickly, which will help fill this stack up of sort of stored energy, as it were, so that this gun can power through the night, because it's what keeps the bad guys away. So now that we've built this, we're just watching the storage go up. You see, we have a certain number of workers per day. That costs 3 workers. We only had 3 workers, so that reminds me, one of these needs to be told to try and produce another villager, because we have 3 of 4. So yeah, the number of workers we have during the day is defined by the number of villagers we have. You use a certain number of workers to do tasks during the day, and that's all you can do during the day. So I had 3 villagers. I need more power, so I built this wind turbine. That is the best thing I could get for 3. And there come the bad guys, and here my little turret gun is blasting away at them and killing them off. And this is the mechanic I like. I love this idea of things that come out of the dark. So now I have 4 villagers. So what I can do is build another solar panel. And I can build another house. So now I have 6. So let us try reading and reading. Right. So this will give me a lot more power, a lot of houses, and and if you can see down at the bottom left, this is a circle thing that it tells us how the day is proceeding. There is unfortunately no settings panel, no way to make the map bigger. That would be nice to full screen it. So yeah, we have constraints, obviously. And there you can see the obelisks. An obelisk takes 10 workers to fix. Right, one villager died. That's not good. But what we can do, because it means we're 5 workers down, what we can do is build another gun turret. And then we can build a chicken coop. I don't quite understand how the chicken coops work, because it says that it produces 3 food for 3 days in a row. And like, does that mean, I don't quite understand what that means. Does that mean it only produces food for 3 days and then stops working? It's very confusing. Okay, let's produce another villager. I'm trying to figure that out. Unfortunately, there's no relentless music, because without the sound controls, I can't turn any of the sounds off. So that's quite fortunate. And I don't actually know how food is consumed, and sort of what rate relative to the people. Cool. So let us build in a couple more food coops, and actually let's build another food coop. No, let's build another gun turret and really get those defenses up and running. As I said, this is a game jam game made very recently with quite constrained, I suppose, game development resources. I assume. I don't know what the constraints are. So yeah, we're sort of looking at it from that perspective. I also don't know why some of the things are different colors to the other things. Okay, let's build a big house. There are certain issues where people get stuck. The big house gives us a lot more things, and also produces 2 villages rather than 1. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, and we have 2 more, so let's make a bit more food. So yeah, sometimes the villagers can get stuck and then you just can't build things, and that really sucks. So, that's a bit of a bug. But I think after this round I'm actually going to stop playing, and we can talk about the critiques that I have and the things that could actually turn this from a game that isn't particularly healthy or happy into one that I think a lot of people would like to play. Okay, so we have a lot more villagers now. We have a lot of food. Yeah, so I'm just going to reload that, and we can talk about some of the mechanics here. Right, the UI. Before we kick in, let me just say, if you're just watching for the gameplay, you don't need to watch anymore, because I'm talking about critiques now. Hopefully that's enough of the gameplay that you've seen. Hopefully it looks interesting enough that you want to play it a bit. I do recommend it. It's quite an interesting little experience, and at the very least, add the game to collection and follow the developer so you can keep an eye on it for when it comes out with a bit. Well, I'm hoping it comes out with a bit more polish. Thank you for watching. As per usual, like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to see more Itch.io games reviewed. And don't forget to leave comments, because comments are a good thing for both you and me, and that's good. So yeah, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Critique. Okay, the UI, obviously there isn't much of a UI, and there is zero kind of tutorial helping you play. Everything I've learned was just through trying things and failing and going, what did I do wrong, and then discovering some other detail that I didn't understand. There is nothing to say this is how you play. I just had to leverage my experience with strategy games and try and get an idea of what the developer was trying to do, how the game progression was intended. So yes, the dev, please make things a bit more obvious. Add a tutorial, add more tooltips, add more information about the gameplay. And also, please try and make it so you can make the game full screen, because that makes it a lot easier. There isn't actually a downloadable version of it. There doesn't seem to be anyway. It's purely in the browser, and is also called name not found, which is, I'm not sure if that's quite appropriate. The sounds are actually not bad. The gunfires and the sort of the winds and the sounds of the creatures dying. Obviously, they could be a lot more immersive, a lot better. But I don't think they're the most significant part here. The art is great. It's very cute, little models moving around. I don't know. I think the gun turrets could look a little bit better, but other than that, it's really cute, really interesting. Very interesting concept. I think well represented by the art of the game. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Again, it would be nice if you could make it full screen, see a little bit better, work a little bit easier with it. Which brings us to the kind of the game feeling, which I found was fine. If you click on things, I could place them fairly accurately. I didn't know how to move the camera around on the map, but there's a comment here that mentions how to do it, so that's actually just helped. The sort of the game feeling in terms of the game mechanics and the game interface is fantastic. It just needs more tutorial and more understanding of how to do things. And then this brings us to the game immersion, and which I want to expand a bit into the actual gameplay, the actual game ideas. So the basic idea of the game is that you are managing this village. Dark things attack out of the darkness, and you fight them off and try and improve more, because I think more and more of the dark things are attacking, and you're going to try and get to the point where you can repair all 4 of the obelisks and save the day. That's cool, perfectly understood. I think that is a fantastic idea. I love this idea of daytime you're desperately trying to do things, and then nighttime the monsters come out. They mostly come out at night, as they said in Aliens. So yeah, that there is what I'm talking about as the kind of the core game mechanic. That is a very, very cool thing. It's very exciting, very enticing. How to make that better? Firstly, there is this little light patch around the buildings, and if the evil monsters run into those light patches, they die. Which I like a lot. I like this idea of building this little sort of pool, this little shell of light around you that is protective. For some reason, the lights go off halfway through the night. It doesn't seem to have anything to do with the amount of energy you have stored. So I don't know if that was just a last-minute decision done for gameplay, and that's why you have to build the gun turrets as well. I like the idea of the gun turrets. If I had to make a balance change, I would make the lights stay there all the time. I would make it so you have to build extra battery storage, and that's quite tricky to balance. And I'd make the turrets a lot more expensive, but a lot less necessary, so you can use the turrets to slow enemies down from further away. Maybe maybe as the light kills the enemies likewise kind of draw power out of the batteries, so you're fighting not just to keep the lights on, but to also absorb the drain of the enemies dying with by killed by light, some kind of supernatural element there, something like that, if that makes sense. That would be nice to see. That would be an interesting change that I would suggest making. But the kind of darkness versus light theme is very cool, and I really like the idea that it is built into batteries and solar panels. Um, I see there's also kind of wind turbines that you actually have to start the game by building, otherwise you fall behind in the queue, and some kind of energy generation that is based in the water, sort of water dams of some kind. It'd be nicer if those kind of weren't included and it was all just balanced around the single solar panel design, and maybe that the houses also generate power. They have like solar panels on the roof to add a little bit of power generation every time you put a house down, something like that, something to make the solar power feel more intrinsic to the game, and then everything else is built with light, so it really pushes that kind of light versus darkness theme that's going through. And maybe the gun turrets are like slow firing lasers that sort of go, so you're firing light out into the darkness, but a lot slower, and really it is the pool of light that you're desperately trying to maintain that protects you at nighttime. I think that would be a lot more interesting. Thematically, I think making the enemies creepier, sort of slower moving, scarier noises, slightly more intimidating model designs, to really have this contrast between the happy villagers and then this really creepy thing that comes out of the darkness. You want the enemies to not also be cute. You want your town and your villagers to be cute, and then the enemies to be creepy, and that really hypes up that immersive draw of it's you in this happy pool of light fighting off these horrible things that are coming out of the dark and succeeding against them. And I mean, that's really where the draw of a game like this comes through. Yeah, and then of course my usual complaint is there isn't enough lore about it, specifically lore in the game. So along with the tutorials, you want an intro sort of saying, and this year, this dreadful apocalyptic landing of horrible creatures came out of the dark, and humanity had to adjust to form, sort of this method of fighting back with light and all of that kind of thing. Yeah, the game needs more lore in it to obviously take it out of the game jam world and bring it into the this is a game that people want to play type of game, and I think that could be quite easily done, with some sort of starting menus and information and sequences coming in, even if it's just text, which I know requires what do you call it, localization with languages and all that kind of stuff. So maybe not that easy, especially for a non sort of English primary team, because that does take it out of the it makes localization important, and especially when it's not the primary language, but the majority of the game playing market is in English. That is difficult, but maybe something can be done with the sort of the intro design to have less words and more images. A slideshow of creatures coming out of the dark and people discovering that light works and batteries being drained or something like that would be interesting. I'm sure the intro could be done without words. There's a lot I'm thinking about, but I don't want to nitpick at too many things, because I think the core components that we've kind of gone through are in themselves quite fundamental to make this game really stand out amongst the others. So yeah, a bit more of a UI, just to try and summarize, a bit more of a UI to give the player some more control, a lot more tutorial, and a lot more kind of lore entrenchment, to really drag a player into it and go, here is this incredible experience, this is how you do it, play the game. I think that would be quite powerful. Obviously, the width and depth of the game itself. I mean, we need more buildings to build. We need a longer gameplay experience. We need more focus on the theming of light versus dark. More focus around the idea of we're using solar power to bring in the light, capturing the light during the day and broadcasting it at night. I think that's your kind of cycle that you really want to present there. And just bring some sounds in if you've got some like a sound person to work with. Otherwise, the sounds as they are at the moment are fine. But yeah, slightly creepier bad guys. Longer lasting sort of light bubble. I really like the mechanic of the light bubble. I think it's well done. So expanding that out, letting you build lights, then you balance them against the power drain, having the enemies try and drain the power while they're in the light, but are also taking damage. That kind of stuff. I think it would really take it to the next level, make this an actually really compelling game, and I think it would be possible within this engine. Anyway, that's all of the critique I'm going to put in at this point. I am going to watch this game quite closely. I really want to see it to get better because I am really interested in the core mechanic and the core idea that I really hope gets focused on. And good luck developers, and good luck everybody else who is interested in this game. And thank you for watching. Come and play the game. Link will be in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.